The galaxy had always watched new planets with curiosity, but when Earth finally appeared on their radar, it was different. It looked small, undeveloped, and far from the center of any power. Its signals were weak, its people divided, and its technology far behind the rest of the known galaxy. To the Galactic Council, Earth seemed like the perfect target, an easy world to conquer, full of natural resources, and without the strength to resist. So when a scouting fleet was sent to investigate, there was no fear of failure. The mission was considered routine, a simple annexation of a forgotten planet. But from the moment they arrived in Earth's orbit, something didn't feel right. There were no defense satellites, no planetary shields, and no fleets waiting to fight. Instead, the skies were calm, the system silent, and the Earth's surface looked completely peaceful. The aliens scanned the globe and saw cities with people walking, laughing, and living as if nothing was wrong. There were no signs of panic, no military buildup, and no global alerts. The humans continued with their daily lives, seemingly unaware of the ships watching from above. The galactic commander ordered a slow approach, sending small landing ships to the surface, and again, they were greeted with no resistance. In fact, when the aliens landed near major cities, they were met with smiles, handshakes, and strange human hospitality. The humans didn't even ask why they were there. They offered food, showed them around, and acted as if nothing unusual was happening. It felt too easy. The cities were clean and organized, but they looked strangely perfect. No trash, no damaged buildings, no signs of chaos. The alien soldiers were confused. Where was the fear? Where were the leaders of Earth? Why weren't they trying to negotiate or resist? Instead of answers, they were offered tours, allowed to roam freely, and watched by smiling citizens who said almost nothing meaningful. The few humans who did speak seemed polite but distant, as if rehearsing a role. It wasn't long before the alien officers started to feel uneasy. Earth was welcoming them like guests, not conquerors, and it didn't make sense. Their instincts told them something was wrong, but their scanners found no danger. Still, the silence in Earth's skies, the lack of resistance, and the strange behavior of the humans began to whisper one terrifying possibility: they had walked into something they didn't understand. Something carefully planned. Something far more dangerous than it appeared. And the worst part? They didn't know if it was already too late to get out. Even after several days on Earth, the alien officers could not understand the calm that surrounded them. The humans smiled too much, spoke too little, and moved with a quiet purpose that made the alien soldiers uncomfortable. There were no protests, no panic, no military responses, just a strange and peaceful silence. It felt like walking through a theater play where everyone was acting, but no one would tell the audience what the story was about. The streets were always clean, almost unnaturally so, and the people behaved as if their daily routines were more important than the presence of alien troops walking in the open. Every building they entered looked recently cleaned and perfectly arranged, as if prepared for inspection. There were no signs of clutter, no signs of human disorder, and no digital footprints showing real-time news coverage of the invasion. It was as if the planet had already known what was coming and had erased its history before the first ship ever landed. The alien commanders ordered scans of the major cities and looked for underground bunkers, hidden weapons, or surveillance systems, but all they found were hollow buildings, basic utilities, and empty communication lines. Earth had shut itself off from the rest of the galaxy just before the fleet arrived, and that silence now felt like a warning more than a weakness. One of the scouts reported that every television and computer on Earth had suddenly lost connection with the global network. Another scout, exploring what appeared to be a human military base, discovered only training grounds without soldiers, offices without leaders, and control rooms without power. It was all a shell, a perfect illusion of a working planet, but without the soul inside. Still, the humans continued acting normal, offering hospitality to the alien visitors, giving them food and shelter, and smiling as if they weren't standing face to face with their own invaders. That unnatural peace was beginning to wear down the alien troops. Some of them began to whisper that Earth had surrendered too fast, that something was off, and that maybe this wasn't a real surrender at all. The aliens had expected chaos, resistance, and the usual cries of rebellion, But Earth had given them silence and smiles. And that silence was louder than any weapon. The fleet commander finally ordered a deeper scan of the planet's underground layers, convinced that Earth's real defense was hidden somewhere below. But again, they found nothing. No hidden bunkers, no energy sources, and no trace of Earth's true leadership. It was as if the planet had emptied itself out before their arrival. Then, during the night, the skies above Earth began to glow not with fire or violence, but with strange signals bouncing between satellites. The alien ships picked up transmissions that made no sense, shifting codes, looping patterns, and silent messages without clear origin. When they tried to decode them, their systems froze for several seconds, then restarted on their own. It was the first sign that Earth wasn't just acting strange, it was watching, calculating, and slowly tightening a trap. One alien officer stood on a balcony and looked over the quiet city below, whispering that this was not peace. It was preparation. That officer never slept again. On the fifth night, every human disappeared from the cities. They vanished without sound, without struggle, leaving behind untouched food, half-full drinks, and still warm blankets. Streets that once looked like peaceful neighborhoods now stood empty and cold, like a stage waiting for the final scene. The alien patrols searched everywhere, but found no bodies, no signs of forced evacuation, and no trace of where the humans had gone. Cameras showed nothing, and motion sensors picked up only the wind. That morning, the alien commander stood in what used to be Earth's busiest capital, surrounded by 100 soldiers and not a single human in sight. That was when he realized something he could no longer deny: Earth was not an easy world. It was never meant to be. It had been built to look open, welcoming, and weak, but all of it was a performance, a setup. And now, the real show was about to begin. The alien commander knew he had to act before whatever trap Earth had set was triggered, so he ordered an immediate strike on what were believed to be Earth's command centers, the towering structures that once buzzed with political and military activity. But when the alien forces stormed those buildings, they found nothing but empty offices, abandoned communication rooms, and fake equipment that looked convincing from the outside but was hollow and dead inside, like stage props placed there only to mislead them. And the further they explored, the more it became clear that the humans had abandoned these centers long before the aliens had even entered orbit, making the invaders feel not like conquerors, but like players in a game whose rules they didn't know. And just as confusion spread across their ranks, Earth made its first true move. A sudden pulse of energy rippled through the atmosphere, unseen by the eye but devastating to the alien fleet hovering above. And within seconds, the mighty ships that once filled the sky flickered, groaned, and powered down one by one, dropping helplessly into Earth's gravity fields or hanging like dead stars above the ground, while on the surface, hidden panels opened silently across the abandoned cities, and from underground bunkers rose strange flying drones, sleek and silent, moving in perfect formations, surrounding every alien patrol with mathematical precision that spoke of years, maybe even decades, of careful preparation. Panic erupted among the alien troops as their weapons jammed, their communication devices failed, and their escape routes were blocked by invisible barriers set by the same satellites they had ignored on arrival. And in that terrifying moment, they realized they had never invaded Earth. Earth had invited them in, had let them step into a net they couldn't even see until it was too late. And now, with the planet's true defenses activated and the aliens stripped of their technology and advantage, the humans no longer smiled. They no longer offered hospitality because their role as kind hosts had ended, and what stood before them, trapped invaders, were the real defenders of Earth, cold, silent, and unbreakable, waiting only for the final command to end this game that had never been fair, a game Earth had designed from the very beginning, not just to survive, but to humiliate anyone foolish enough to believe that humans were weak simply because they had stayed quiet for so long. As the alien forces struggled to regroup, the humans finally showed their true nature, not as desperate defenders, but as master tacticians who had turned their entire planet into a living weapon, because while the invaders had seen peaceful cities and smiling faces, they had missed the deeper truth that Earth's real strength was not in its armies or machines, but in its ability to adapt, to learn, and to fight wars before the enemy even realized a war had begun. And now the humans moved with terrifying precision, using their strange flying drones to block every escape path, seal every communication line, and force the alien troops into smaller and smaller groups like shepherds guiding lost animals toward a trap. And it wasn't through brute strength that they did this, but through clever planning, psychological warfare, and invisible control, as every street corner, every sewer tunnel, every abandoned building had already been mapped and prepared for this moment. And even though the aliens had superior weapons, they couldn't fire them because the drones emitted pulses that shut down advanced technology, leaving the invaders holding useless metal shells in their hands, while the humans didn't even need heavy firepower. They used speed, surprise, and knowledge of the terrain to capture entire squads without firing a shot, moving like shadows, unseen and unstoppable. And the aliens realized too late that they were not fighting against simple civilians, they were fighting against a planet that had spent generations preparing for the day someone would be foolish enough to come looking for an easy conquest. And now that day had arrived. Earth was executing its strategy with merciless focus, not rushing, not panicking, but breaking the enemy piece by piece, crushing morale by isolating leaders from their soldiers, spreading confusion with fake signals and false escape routes, and manipulating the battlefield until every alien step, every alien breath served the humans' hidden plan. And even though no great battles were fought, no dramatic explosions lit the sky, it was more terrifying than any war the aliens had ever known, because they were not dying in glorious combat, they were being dismantled slowly, silently, and completely, and deep within the command centers hidden far below Earth's surface. The true leaders of humanity watched the events unfold without a flicker of emotion, calculating every move like chess masters closing in on a helpless opponent. It was not vengeance, and it was not pride, it was survival, it was history, and it was a clear message to the galaxy that if anyone ever thought to challenge Earth again, they would find not a battlefield, but a grave already prepared. The surviving alien commanders sat in silence inside the cold steel walls of a temporary prison built by the humans, their faces pale and their minds broken, because they finally understood that Earth had never been an easy target. It had been a perfect trap from the very first moment they had seen it, shining like a jewel among the stars. And now, stripped of their technology, their pride, and their illusions, they could only watch helplessly as humanity delivered its final lesson, not through words or threats, but through action, because instead of killing the prisoners or parading them as trophies, the humans simply released them back into their ships, allowed them to leave with their lives, but with one heavy burden: fear, because no enemy was more dangerous than one who had already defeated you before the first shot was fired. And as the battered fleets limped away from Earth's orbit, carrying the broken soldiers back to their homeworlds, every alien who had once laughed at humanity now spoke in whispers about Earth, warning others not to be fooled by the planet's green fields and peaceful cities, because underneath the beauty lived a people who had turned patience into a weapon and weakness into a shield. And soon stories spread across the galaxy, tales of a world that had played the greatest trick in history, a world where even the strongest armies had fallen without understanding how or why, and leaders of faraway empires held secret meetings, trembling as they decided it was better to leave Earth alone, better to respect a species that had outsmarted them so completely. And the humans, meanwhile, returned to their quiet lives, smiling again, rebuilding again, pretending once more to be ordinary and harmless. But deep underground, their true defense systems remained ready, silent guardians watching the stars, because they knew this victory was not just about surviving one invasion. It was about teaching a lesson that would echo through time, a lesson that would be remembered long after the defeated armies were forgotten, a lesson that warned the galaxy that Earth was never truly defenseless. It was simply waiting for the right moment to remind everyone that those who came seeking an easy conquest would find only their own downfall, because the humans were not just survivors, they were the masters of survival, and they would never again be underestimated by anyone who valued their own future.